Okay, now we are going to body paragraph 2. So in the Google form, it says we're looking for teal. My transition, my second example, my adding details, and my link it back sentence. So here we go. Is the first sentence of the second body paragraph a transition to your second reason? So here we go. On a lighter note, gratitude can also take stress out of your life. Stress out of your life. So I transitioned because this one was a pretty serious example. So my next one's not as serious. So I said, on a lighter note, gratitude can also take stress out of your life. So yes, it did transition. But I don't really think it's meaningful. I'm going to take to less stress. So on a lighter note, gratitude, so take stress out of your life. Instead of saying that, can also alleviate. I need to check the spelling with that. I think it's 2 L's. Alleviate stress. Okay. Now, is there a second example? A perfect illustration of this is in the children's Those Shoes. Jeremy, like Stephen above, also took and focused what he on instead of what he did have. Okay, so here's my example, a perfect illustration. And again, this example comes from literature. So now I'm going to add my details. Jeremy, like Stephen above, also took the wrong attitude and focused on what he didn't have instead of what he did have. Okay, so here again I linked it to my other example, Stephen above. Anytime I can do that, it's good. I want to be able to, my examples to kind of relate to each other. Also took the wrong attitude and focused on what he didn't have instead of what he did have. What did he not have? Part of my details. That's my question, is kind of adding voice. The latest pair of fancy shoes that cost a small fortune. There's another detail. He chose to ignore thinking on the things he did have. And here's a colon, a loving grandma, a comfortable home, and friends, without trying to attain what he thought was necessary to his happiness. In the end, he realized there were others less fortunate than him and was able to relieve the stress his ingratitude causing. Okay, so to me, maybe I need to add some more details about a loving, instead he stressed him out in trying to attain what he thought was necessary to his happiness. So I'm going to say he worried and about finding expensive shoes that he couldn't afford. Okay? So that's just another detail that talks more about his stress, about finding shoes he couldn't afford. In the end, he realized there were others less fortunate than him. To relieve the stress his ingratitude was calling. That's my link sentence. But now that I'm reading it, I don't really like it. In the end, he realized, I'm going to say, was important in life. In the end, he realized what was important in life. Family and friends. And then I'm going to say we need to talk about stress. He stopped stressing over his lack of resources and started enjoying what he had. Okay, I'm going to change that because I didn't like the way that that sounded. Okay, now, did you include a link sentence? Yes, I did. 2 sophisticated sentences is what I need to find, and strong vocabulary words and imagery. Here's one. He chose to ignore thinking on the things he did have, a loving grandma, a comfortable home, and friends, and instead stressed himself out trying to attain what he thought was necessary to his happiness. I think that's one good sentence. Another good one would be, oops, wrong paragraph. Jeremy, like Stephen above, also took the wrong attitude and focused on what he didn't have instead of what he did have. So this is my interrupter. So in this one I used an interrupter, so that's a good sentence too. I keep saying things like he focused on what he didn't have instead of what he did have. I need to change that. Jeremy, like Stephen above, also took the wrong attitude and focused on what he lacked and not on what he was blessed with. And then, what did he not have? What was he lacking? The latest pair of fancy shoes that cost a small fortune. Okay? So the vivid imagery, I would say this in my list: a loving grandma, a comfortable home, and friends. I can imagine him in a living room with a loving grandma. The latest pair of fancy shoes that cost a small fortune. That's a little bit of imagery because I might be thinking of a pair of shoes and a small fortune. I might need to go back and add some imagery, so I'm going to try later to imagery. Okay, so that is body paragraph 2. Oh, my vocabulary words. Let's think. Attain, good vocabulary word. Let's see. I think I said alleviate up here. It's a good vocabulary word. I could find something about attitude. Lacked is a pretty good word. I used that instead of what he didn't have. So those are some strong vocabulary words. Okay? So now what I want you to do is do the same thing for your second body paragraph.